guys, it's Kevin again, and this is going to be my review for Vice. And what Vice is essentially about is it tells the true story of Dick Cheney. This was someone who he started off in the private sector, and he was someone who he always wanted the power, and eventually he is approached by George W. Bush, who is very easily manipulated into granting Cheney this power, and he basically goes on to wreak havoc on the world, and the rest of the film is basically seeing the damage he did and just how little remorse he had for it and things like that, and that's really all I'm going to say. So I just want to clarify something before I start the review. I was originally supposed to do this review with Auburn Wanderer, but unfortunately we ran out of time. I came back, I had my flight actually that day, and we were going to film it then, but we just didn't have the time to review it, so I'm going to be reviewing it on my own. That being said, I was very excited for this film. I thought this film looked so interesting, and as someone who isn't necessarily interested in politics and things like that, this film definitely really intrigued me. It looked like a film that was going to tell a very honest, just very honest, unapologetic story of Dick Cheney, what he was really doing and things like that. And I didn't really know a lot about him, so I was very interested in getting into his whole story. And I have to say, overall, I really love this film a lot. I think this film very much did deliver. It's a much different film than I was expecting. It's extremely cynical and smug about pretty much everything, but that's one of the many reasons why I really loved it as much as I did. But let's just get into it right now, starting off with the cast. Now, I'll just say right off the bat, every single performance in this film is extraordinary. There's not a single performance here that I don't think is incredible. I think really everyone gives their fullest potential, but easily the stand on this entire thing is Christian Bale. And look, obviously the weight gain and the dedication, yes, that is incredible, what he's able to do. I mean, he's a chameleon. I don't know how he's able to do it. I mean, it's incredible. He really is this sort of enigma where he's one of those actors that will just go as far as he can to get into character. And, he really doesn't seem to have any limits whatsoever in terms of that. I mean, we all remember what he did in The Machinist, but aside from that, his portrayal of Dick Cheney is so spot on here. There's not a single time in this movie, even when he's younger and he looks like Christian Bale, that you see Christian Bale. You see Dick Cheney. You see how devious, how manipulative, and just how smug he is about basically everything. He has very little regard for anyone. He will make sure that things get done the way he wants it to get done, and he just does such a great job with showing how private of a guy Cheney was. Cheney was someone who never really showed how he truly felt about things, but you can tell exactly how he feels. And when an actor is able to exhibit that through basically saying nothing, even though this is such a secretive guy, that's when you know you have great talent on display. This is easily one of the best performances that I've seen all year. One scene in particular towards the end of this movie is absolutely chilling. What Bale did is just, it's incredible. He's a real force of nature. I think he's one of the best actors working today, and this is easily one of his best performances for sure. But also Amy Adams, someone else that I want to highlight in this film, as Lynn Cheney, who is also fantastic here. Another standout performance from her. And what I really love about Lynn Cheney is for a while, she's the one that's pulling a lot of the strings. Any time that Cheney's like, I want to get out of this, I don't want to do this anymore, Lynn somehow always coaxes him into going back to it. And their relationship is very fascinating. There's a lot of manipulation going on there as well. But I thought overall they both did a very good job. I really felt their chemistry here, and I thought overall Adams once again gave another really great performance. I'm hearing a lot of people say that she could end up winning Best Supporting Actress because, it is such a long time coming, and if she does get nominated, I would love to see that happen because I definitely do think that she is deserving here. I really love what she ended up doing in this film. Then the rest of the cast here also does an incredible job. Steve Carell is obviously great as a Donald Rumsfeld. Sam Rockwell, man, I mean, look, he's not in the movie that much, more than I was expecting for sure, and no, he doesn't have like a huge standout scene, but it's really just the mannerisms and the naivety of George Bush that he gets down to a T. You understand this is someone who was so easily manipulated by Cheney that you almost feel bad for him. I mean, it's humiliating what he ends up having to go through, and I think Rockwell overall just did such a great job in this role. and I really liked what he ended up doing. Tyler Perry is fantastic here. One of his best performances for sure. He's completely unrecognizable in this role as well. Also, Alison Pill and Lily Rabe had a lot more to do in this movie than I was expecting. They play Cheney and Lynn's two daughters, and I thought they both were fantastic here, particularly Alison Pill. There's a specific arc that she ends up going through in this film that I really was not expecting, but I thought she really killed it. I really like what she ended up doing, and Jesse Plemons is also really great as the narrator. Like I said, everyone really is at the top of their game here. There isn't a single actor that I don't think gave it 100%, and I really do have to commend everyone here. But now that I want to get to the directing and the writing, because I know this is the thing that's going to turn people off. And look, if you are turned off by this movie, I do understand it, because look, McKay's style, it's very direct. It's very in your face. He does not hold back at all. Like I said, he is extremely smug, he's extremely unapologetic, and it can get obnoxious for some people, but for me, I think it was totally the right sort of tone for this movie. I mean, again, remember, Cheney is someone who never really showed his emotions. He never really showed how he felt about things, and I mean, you can tell that, you know, how passionate McKay is for his hatred for Cheney. He detests him, he portrays him as a buffoon at times, and he is not afraid to do that. And the way the film is able to do that with such great dark comedy is really great here. This movie was a lot funnier than I was expecting, and in no point does it feel out of place. There's a lot of great comedy in this film that really is mocking a lot of what Cheney was going for, and again, it makes sense for the type of film that, you know, the type of person that Cheney was, and I think overall he did a very good job with that, but there's also, the film does take itself seriously. Like, there are definitely a lot of serious moments, and I thought that was definitely blended very well. I have not seen The Big Short, but I can see why Adam McKay, was, you know, but then going to the writing here, again, this is a film that is very direct, and I think for some people that might be a turnoff for them, but it's very accurately portrayed with the way it does go about things with Cheney. Cheney, at first, is not as unlikable as he turns out to be. It's just when he eventually gets that power, he just feels so compelled. You really understand that Cheney, he needs that power, and any time it's presented him, he just can't say no. There's a long period of time, actually, where you don't, you know, they make it seem like he's not going to, hilariously so, they make it seem like he's not going to have as much power, but you know who Cheney is. You know that this is someone who he just relishes in the idea of being in total control and having that absolute power. A big part of the movie is this thing called the, you know, executive, I forgot exactly what it's called, but they keep referencing it throughout the film, and essentially it's the idea that he's going to try to take all the power away from the president, and he was just waiting for Bush to give him that say-so, and once he finally does get it, you know, you understand the type of person that Cheney is and why he does what he ends up doing here, and again, the film just does a very good job with showing how just incredibly manipulative he really was. I mean, you can understand why someone would give Cheney all this power, because he does such a great job of making it seem like he didn't really want it. And again, that is attributed to Bale's acting, but also the writing is just very strong when it comes to Dick Cheney and things like that. The film also, like I said, is hilarious. I mean, there are so many great moments throughout this movie, and it's a film that could be so boring, but they just keep it so interesting and fun. There's a great scene at a restaurant, and I don't want to say much more, but they find a way to throw in political commentary through this restaurant scene, and it's just so genius. I love the way it was written. I thought it was so well done there, and I definitely really enjoyed that a lot. But the film also focuses a lot more on him and Lynn's relationship than I was really expecting. For a while, the film really is about the two of them and the hurdles that they had to go through. And again, how Lynn was sort of the Lady Macbeth in all this, where she was persuading him to do these things, even if he didn't really want to at first. You could say that Lynn is the one who really made him into this corrupted sort of individual. And I thought that was just a really interesting idea overall, because, you know, a lot of people talk about Dick Cheney, but not a lot of people know much about Lynn Cheney, and this film, I think, definitely shows that they both were at fault for what ended up happening, and I think that was definitely a very interesting idea. But also the things that Cheney did just absolutely shocked me. The types of things, I mean, these are things that we've heard about before, but the fact that these things happened and nobody tried to put a stop to it, it's just disgusting to think about. And I mean, especially when it comes to the Iraqi war, I mean, this was something that did not need to happen, but Cheney did it. And when you realize everything he did, basically he did it for his self-worth, and he did it because it benefited him. He didn't really care about anyone else. I mean, it just makes you realize just how conniving of a person he really is. And again, I think McKay just does such a great job with portraying him as such. I really loved the way that was done. Um, but something else but something else I loved about this movie is actually the Jesse Plemons narration. It adds a lot to the film that I was expecting. And you guys know, most of the time when there is narration in a film from this outside source, like say Vox Lux recently, I'm not a fan of it because we don't really understand why this person is narrating. It just feels like a very sort of unreliable account, and this film, what it's able to do was so genius. The film establishes very early on that there's a connection that Plemons and Cheney have. And when we eventually get into it, it's honestly, I think, one of the best reveals of the entire year. I love the way that was done. They plant a lot of seeds for this reveal, but they never really throw it on you until the very end. And I thought it was such a great reveal the way that was done. I thought it was definitely very well handled. And again, um, considering how much I don't usually like narration like this, I think it honestly really did elevate this film for me. And like I said, the Plemons narration overall, they're able to do a lot of fun stuff with it. A lot of the time, I mean, again, this is someone that really despises Cheney, and he does a really great job with just making fun of him and mocking him and things like that. And I think overall there was definitely, but again, the film is respectful to the other people, the people that did have to go through this. And it does take itself seriously. Like, sure, it has a lot of fun with stuff, but when it does need to be serious, it does take itself seriously. And I think overall the writing was just really good there. But also, like I said, the film is absolutely hysterical, much funnier than I was expecting. There is one gag especially at the end of like the first act of this movie, and it is among some of the funniest stuff I have seen all year. And I will say this, they talked about how they had to cut out this musical sequence, and considering how bonkers and ridiculous this film can be at times, I honestly would have been down for it because it probably would have fit with the tone of this movie. Like I said, the movie does not take itself as seriously as necessary as you would expect, and I think definitely that would have fit in tone perfectly with what they really do here. But overall, I really do love the writing here. I think it's definitely very good screenplay overall. The cinematography also in this film is just incredible. There are so many amazing shots here, and look, again, the makeup and hairstyling, there really is something to say about that. And there are times where they'll cut to real footage and I'll forget that it's not like Tyler Perry on screen, because it's just that convincing when he's Colin Powell and things like that, and they do such an incredible job with that. But there's so many great shots in this film. Many to a lot of shots to really love, and I definitely thought that the camera work was definitely really great here. Also, the score to this film I definitely really enjoyed a lot. It gives you that sort of epic feel for what they're going for, and the editing to this film I thought also was really great. Like I said, the movie really does do its own thing in terms of editing, and I thought the editing style was really cool. There are definitely some weird sort of choices in there, but overall I thought it worked very well. It's very direct, it is very in your face, but again, that's what McKay is going for, and I think he did a very good job with that. That being said, this film is not perfect. There are definitely a couple things that do hold it back from being one of the best of the year for me. The first one being is that a large part of this film, like I said, centered on Dick and Lynn's relationship, the relationship that they have. And after a certain point in this movie, Lynn just kind of disappears. She's in it, but I thought she was really underused, and their whole relation was one of the most intriguing parts of the beginning of the film for me, and I wish we could have gotten more with that. I think she should have been more front and center in this film, and I do think it was a missed opportunity to kind of have her, not necessarily drop off, but underuse her towards the end of this movie. Now, I do think there was definitely a missed opportunity there. Also, Tyler Perry, as much as I do love Colin Powell, he he really does not have a lot to do here. He has like one big scene, but other than that, I understood why he was here, but I really wish they could have given him more to do. And maybe it's just because I liked him so much in this role that I wanted to see more of him, but I really do think they could have given him some more standout work, especially since he's credited as like the 5th or 6th like main character here. He's really not in it that much, and I wish he would have gotten more overall. And then the other complaint that I have is that I do think that the second act is a little bit messy. The way things do wrap up, I think they could have done a bit of a better job with that. Some of the scenes do drag on just a bit, and I think some of the pacing could have been just a little bit better overall. But for the most part, Vice is a really great film. This is a lot of fun at points, much more fun than I was expecting. It leans very heavily into mocking Cheney and a lot of the things that he did, but it also gives a very honest portrayal of who Cheney was. For someone who, like I said, was so secretive and so despicable, this film really does not hold back. They are not afraid to poke fun at him. They are not afraid to say the worst shit possible, and you can totally understand the type of person that Cheney really was from this film. Bale, Adams, all of them give some of the best performances of their entire career. The makeup and hairstyling here is fantastic. There's some hilarious moments, much more than I was expecting. Also, the post-credit scene in this movie is amazing. I loved everything about it. It is on the nose, but the entire film pretty much is, so I really don't have that much of a problem with it. I thought the post-credit scene overall was just absolutely hysterical, and I love what they were trying to do there. Overall, I had a really great time with this film. Very excited to see more of what Adam McKay does. I think he definitely has a bright future ahead of him. I definitely want to watch The Big Short after this because I actually have not seen this film before this one. But overall, I loved pretty much everything about Vice, minus those few complaints that I did have. And I am going to give Vice overall an A-. But like I said, this is my review of Vice. Let me know what you guys saw this film overall. Left your thoughts, and we'll see you guys in my next video, which, guys, I have one more movie review coming to you guys today, and then I will finally do my best list, which I am very excited to finally put out, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.